Welcome to the Succeed with Software podcast, brought to you by SuiteDash. Today's episode is from one of the bi-weekly Q&A webinars. To participate live, just follow the link in the description to sign up and submit your questions. Be sure that you're subscribed on YouTube and following us on all social media to get the latest videos and updates about new and existing features. All right, so let's get started. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Mike. I am the founder and CEO of SuiteDash. Welcome to the easiest hour of my day. This is the SuiteDash Q&A webinar. It's 11 a.m. Thursday. Let's start off by getting you guys to jump into the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from and a little about your business niche, maybe just a couple general sentences of how you are looking at using the platform, and we can get started. While you're doing that, I will go ahead and just say, if you haven't started a free trial of SuiteDash, I would encourage you to do that. That's the best way for you to get your feet wet in the platform and start to understand how it can help you. So I see some folks in here from all over and a few different niches. Some of the questions that were submitted during your onboarding for the webinar, we'll use those to guide the conversation. Hi, Linda. How are you? Linda says she's joining from Northeast Pennsylvania. Just launched my account, HR consultancy, and in the trial period of SuiteDash. Hey, Linda, that's perfect. Okay. Awesome. So free trial is great. This is what we're hoping to achieve with the webinar, to give you a place that you can start to ask questions and get some ideas. We won't probably be able to help you build out your entire, well, that's for sure. But the idea is to give you some light bulbs, some things that you can take away and start making some progress. You can come back to every webinar that we hold and get a little bit further. You also have access to more than likely live support sessions and things like that. Hi, Matt from Toronto. Nice. Work for a small IT consulting. And yes, I see your notes here, Matt. And also I see your notes, Linda. And I see a few others joining us that we have similar guidance on how we should proceed. Okay. So of course, guys, as you are getting up and running, please do pay attention to the documentation at help.suitedash.com. There is a lot of hard work that goes into keeping this accurate and helpful. I would encourage you just to type your questions into the search box here, right on the homepage there. That will lead you to articles which should help you through concepts and get you a little further along. And then there's also Kevin AI, which is a work in progress. It's basically ChatGPT trained on our help documentation. This is, again, a work in progress. You may get answers here that don't make sense or seem somehow inaccurate. That is something that we're working on ironing out. And as we all know, this is a new technology and has some gray areas as to if it's accurate, if it's not. So everyone is kind of aware of that. So, but it's helpful. But this is a helpful way to shortcut yourself in some cases. But just keep in mind, it may not be perfect. And also from your free trial, you can always click Academy from your flyout menu. You see, I have a few extra prophetic links, let's call these. And I won't expound further unless we have some extra time later today. But here, if you click Academy, you'll be taken directly into the SuiteDash Academy here, where you can click SAT series. And this is the best place for you to start and start working your way through one at a time. I saw some questions about white labeling, I think, in the questions. This section here, White Label 101, is excellent. And there are videos here that will, each one of them, for example, has a video that's very descriptive, links to the documentation directly, and also resources just to help you in case you need some guidance or some shortcuts to, for example, having your logo converted to an SVG. If you don't have an SVG logo, they are quite nice to have. They give you a very high resolution logo, and it's very nice looking as compared to something like a mismatched or missized ping or JPEG. So these are things that you may or may not know if you're, everyone can't know everything. And so file formats and their appropriate use cases are something that web publishers and developers and those kind of people know, but you don't have to know. So this helps you shortcut that. Okay, let's go ahead and start working through some questions. I see. Let's start with Linda, because Linda jumped into the chat first. We'll have an honorary Linda here. So Linda says, I'm going to share a little bit, Linda, if that's okay. You've already said you're an accountant, HR consultancy, and you're asking about the best use cases for solo practice just launching. So here I have a nicely themed environment here for accomplished CPAs. Let's just really quickly look at some of the white label aspects of the platform, as we did have some questions about that. So this is a fully white labeled login page. As you can see, there's no indication of SuiteDash all the way down to the URL. This is what we call a custom URL. You can even look in the source code here and you won't find any mention of SuiteDash. So this is a way that you keep your brand directly up front, and throughout the platform, that is something that is continued. Logging in, either whether it's you or your clients, you'll log into an environment that looks similar to this, meaning your logo, your colors, your background images, those kind of things. The menu can be adjusted based on who is logging in. You, as this is a super admin that's logged in here, you're going to see everything. You're going to have everything. But then the platform gives you controls to manage what every other person will see when they enter, based on roles, which is something like prospect or client. And then in that sense of prospect and client, you can further segment using what we call circles. And then the platform is designed to adapt the presentation, the experience, based on circle affiliation primarily, as we go beyond roles. So you'll see in CRM, you have the circles menu here. And this is one of the primary segmentation. It's a functional segmentation, we call this, which means access to specific pages, dashboards, file folders, menu items are regulated based on their affiliation or their being in or not being in a circle. And one of the ways to think about this is wristbands. So if you go to, say, a festival or to a corporate, some kind of event, a big corporate event or, convention, they may put a wristband around your wrist that is red or is purple or is green. And then maybe you'll get an additional one for the VIP room. And all the security people and the people working the velvet rope or whatever it is will check your wristbands, band or bands, and say, okay, yes, you are authorized to enter here. You are not, because you don't have the right one. Think of circles in that same way. In fact, they even kind of look like wristbands. So just keep that in mind. So when you say best uses for solo practice, Linda, I'm going to just go ahead and kind of combine that question and answer into a more general 5-minute explanation, hopefully, maybe a little bit longer, that will help everyone understand the best way to get started with the portal. Does that sound okay? Yeah, and I think this will help. The very best way, now you can add a contact or a company. Typically, I think you'll be working with a company. So you want to add a company into your CRM. You're going to name the company. Okay, so this can be any name, Acme Incorporated. We'll say you are ready to do business with this person. Let's just kind of skip these things. We can get to them later, but let's just say they're a client. We're ready to go. I've had a phone call with them. They want to take advantage of my services. Let's get them going in my funnel. Okay, so now you can create a primary contact. This is the person that you will be interfacing with at the company, the primary. And There are additional company details here, some location information. Now, this is where it starts to get, you can assign circles, salesperson coordinator, all these things you can do here manually one at a time. That is not what we would recommend. Okay. So what we don't want you to do is every time you add a client to go through here and, okay, yeah, and just the very granular, make these selections. And this becomes something repetitive and honestly time consuming for you as you check or uncheck or assign or unassign them to specific proposals and those kind of things, right? What I would rather see you do is concentrate on what we call a kickoff form, okay? So a kickoff form is designed to embed on your website or be a standalone landing page. And I'll give you a good example here. I think I have one right here. Here. This, what you're looking at now, is a kickoff form. Okay, this is modified with some HTML. And this is built with our same tools that you have access to. This is the form section of it. This part is HTML, like a content block added above it. And when this is submitted, it starts a workflow. Imagine this is the first step in a funnel that you are creating that will guide them through a workflow and collect the information that you need to accomplish your work, right? So a kickoff form can be as beautiful and pretty as you can make it with your skills and how you want to present it, or it can be very plain in the sense that you want to embed it in a website. And this is a really fast way to get things started, but let's go back and I'll explain a little bit more. So now we're going to create a kickoff form, and you're going to start with when you first start a kickoff form, it's going to have default information, first name, last name, primary email. You'll see that here, default fields. Everything beyond that is going to be a custom field. Okay. So the questions that you want to ask, how many corporations are you dealing with? How many bank accounts? How many credit cards? These may be things that you need for pricing, right? You need to collect that information. So you want to ask these are going to be custom fields that you can create from here and add them. So say we want to create a new custom field for the company, and we'll say, all right, this one is how many employees? And I am just spitballing here. Do you have? That's the question. That's how we'll say how many employees. That's how we understand it. It's a reference for us, but down here is how many employees do you have? This is the question. It says it here, prompt or description. Okay, let's set this. This is the usage. This is something you'll have to learn what it means, but it is not difficult to understand. Type, we want to say, in this case, we can use a number type custom field. And then we say, okay, can this contact edit this info in their profile? We don't really need that. Do we hide the placeholder? This is also something you can understand, but not needed in this case. I'm going to click add. So when I do that, what I'll get is now I have that custom field has been created, which means now there's a new column in the database for every one of my clients from here forward and from previously. There's a new cell for data for all my clients. Okay. And now I can ask as they come through this form, as they complete that form, the data for the specific, what we call a target, as they complete the form, we're going to insert the data into the cell, that column, for whatever their first name is, whatever their last name is, whatever their company is called, etc. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're collecting information and filing it in the CRM, saving it in the database. Then you'll be able to use this data later in a variety of ways as triggers for if this data equals X, then do Y. Or you can display it to them on a dashboard and say, well, this is the data we have for you. Allow them to update it or change it. So you're creating a profile for this person. Okay. I'm not going to do a lot of, not going to try to make all of this super fancy. I'm just trying to explain the concepts here. Okay. Now, here, this is going to be the form. Okay. This is all the form information. This is the data we're collecting. Here is where you're going to start categorizing the targets, which means it's the random user that's on the other side of this form who's looking at the form. They fill out the data and they click submit. We call them a target because we don't know much about them yet, and they are the target of these automations and assignments. So now we're going to assign them the role of client, anyone who that target. We're going to assign them coordinator, anyone who completes this form. We can assign them a circle. We'll say, okay, well, this form, I'm going to put them in the bookkeeping circle. They'll get treated based on that circle affiliation. You can generate documents for signing here. Documents start with what we call a document template, which allows you to create a dynamic template. And then the data that's submitted here can be inserted dynamically and on the fly into that template. The document is then generated and sent for signing immediately if you choose this option. And then there's a whole variety of options here that integrate all parts of the platform, all the toolkits, things like proposals. You can immediately generate a proposal from what we call a proposal generator, which is a mechanism that, again, is somewhat like a template. It's a pre-built, pre-created proposal that has all the elements included in it. We just need to know the client, the target. Give me the target. Give me the data. So, for example, you might create a proposal generator that has all static items, except for there's dynamic pieces in there that are designed to be populated by the data collected in this form or another form or some series of forms that you create that create the data properly. And all of these, I can't get into each one of them individually or it'll slow us down. But then you can send the email immediately for access to the portal, what we call our portal access invitation here, or you can notify the coordinator when the target is onboarded for making sure they know that they need to be in touch with them. Ostensibly, then paid portal access means you can require payment to access the portal. Now that is for what we call unknown targets. This means that when this form is submitted, the email is unrecognized. We do not see this email address in your CRM, and therefore we treat this submission as an unknown target. However, if it's someone that's already in your CRM that makes it back to this form in whatever capacity your workflow demands, we have a separate section for known targets. So now you can define what happens to someone who is already in your CRM who comes through this form. So, for example, if you use this form to kick off a process of website updates, say you want to use this as a website update form, and it kicks off some process that you have. Maybe you have some clients who come through that are requesting website updates that you've never dealt with before, but then you have repeat clients that might come through the same form, and we might have a different process to deal with them. So as you see here, a coordinator, no change. Assigned a salesperson, no change. Assigned a circle, no change. But you may create an additional circle to say, oh, this is a repeat client, and I want to put them in a new circle now. I want to give them a new wristband, and maybe I adjust my processes as it relates to them based on that new circle, that new wristband. Okay. So again, this is a little bit of a thing you'll need to learn and understand and see if it applies to your use case, but the tools are here. And then you can additionally create emails that get sent separately and triggered by the submission of this form. There's conditional logic. There's this is the list of submissions. This is where you do the link and embed. You can customize the portal access invitation content of that email to this specific form. So if you're creating multiple kickoff forms with multiple entryways into your businesses or multiple services, maybe you create different pages on your website for bookkeeping, for wealth management, for tax prep, You may have a separate kickoff form for each one. That makes sense. Then you would customize the email that gets sent to them. Welcome to our tax prep program. Here's what you can expect. Here's the next steps. That would be a separate email than, say, the wealth management one. So here you can customize the emails that are sent from this kickoff form. And we could go further. We could go deeper. But what I want to make sure that you understand is the next. 1 second. Yeah. So I'm just going to abandon these changes because they're not really important. I don't want to take time trying to fulfill that validation there. So here we are. This is a form. But one thing I want you to understand is now that we have gone through this form and we've standardized what happens when that form is submitted, what we've also done is avoided this manual one at a time entry of adding companies and constantly each time having to select these settings and circles, right? We've standardized it. We've created a formula. We've pre-created and said, okay, when this form is submitted, all of these things need to happen at once, simultaneously, automatically. That's great because that kicks off your funnel, kicks off your workflow immediately, like as soon as the form's submitted. So imagine that your website, you have this kickoff form there or a landing page or whatever that's all pre-created, pre-configured, and starts this workflow and starts emails go sending out to your staff and everything starts happening. A proposal is automatically generated and sent. A document is automatically generated, ready for signing. They get access to the portal where they land on a dashboard where you explain your services and define what's next. And, really they're already there. The second they click submit, they're already inside your designed experience. They're impressed. You do that and they're like, whoa, okay, all right. Yeah, good. This is nice. Unusual, impressive, but nice. As opposed to your competition who has a regular form on their website that when it's submitted, it sends an email to somebody on their staff and that's it. Because that's typical, right? So let's just say that your potential client, you submit the form they submit the form on your website at the same time as they submit the form on your competition's website. Who do you think is going to win that business? Because on the competition website, it's going to go into an email inbox and sit there until somebody has the time to read it, formulate some response, which is probably just an email response. And then you start whatever kind of old school, non-automated, non-process driven interaction back and forth. Okay, yeah, that might work. But your side is going to win almost certainly with just a little bit of work, a little preparation, a little bit of automation. And guess what? It also saves you all that time. You don't have to do that manual back and forth and coerce and help that client understand your services over and over and over again, right? Matt, we'll get to that in just a second, but I definitely want to get to that. But here's another, yes, sir, another advantage that I was kind of building a construction so that you understand even if the client fills it out. But we also have something called staff submit. Okay. And this is really powerful as well. So just think you're taking a phone call now. Staff submit is the same form that you would embed on your website, but now your assistant, your phone person can take this phone call and fill out the same information. And when they click submit, and guess what? All the same assignments and processes get started. In fact, we have many, many customers who will custom build a kickoff form specifically for the purpose of being a in-person or phone assistant to that assistant or person, so that when the phone call comes in, they have a very guided process to collect data, collect information, and click submit. And when they click submit, any number of these automations and assignments can be configured that will happen automatically. Imagine kicking off 10 processes at once that would, when they hung up the phone, would typically then take another 30 or 45 minutes to execute minimum. If you're talking about developing getting a document ready for signing, how many of us have spent time? Okay, let's go to DocuSign. Let's start this. Let's do that. Okay, now let's go to this other platform. Let's re-enter this data. Okay, now I need to do a proposal. Okay, now I need to send an email to so-so. All that happens in a millisecond in SuiteDash once it's configured. So you have the capability of making a self-registration path essentially from your website so that all these processes happen, all these automations happen, or internally you can create these kind of processes that help you collect data, kick off automations and assignments and processes in milliseconds instead of many minutes, depending on what it is. Okay, Matt says, can you onboard new employees with existing company? With an existing company, don't kickoff form handler? Yes, it can be done with a kickoff form, Matt. So if you bring a new company, I think what you're asking is on the client side. If you bring in a new company and we've never seen them before, we're going to assign that first person as the primary contact. Anyone else that comes through that company will be assigned as what we call an associated contact. But yes, they can come through the company. Now, there's a couple of things that you'll want to be aware of, and that is, you'll see this in CRM settings. This company match percentages is one. Okay, so when you have first, we can't provide on the kickoff form side a select box for them to choose from companies, because that would reveal to anyone in the public all the companies that are in your CRM. So that's not an option. So we have to leave a blank field for them to say, okay, I'm with Acme Incorporated. But what if they type out Incorporated, or what if they, that's an easy one. But what if they type the business name, the company name a little bit differently, but of course it's the same company. They just don't get it exactly the same as it's in your CRM. We provide you with a company match percentage that's default set at 75%. And essentially it's an algorithm where we try to match the companies based on the similarity of what's typed in. So there might be cases where we would create a new company because the similarity match wasn't good enough, even though they might really be trying to say the same company, but they left out a word or whatever. So just be aware of this, that there is this dynamic in that company matching as they fill out the kickoff form. I don't think it's not problematic. And in most cases, we see very few customers changing this percentage. It works pretty well. Not yet, Matt, not yet, but that is on the way. That is something that we do plan to add. The primary contact will be able to manage the company information. As of now, let's do a private window here. Remember, and I'm doing this incognito private window because everyone, please remember that you can't be logged in as the same user as two or more different users in the same browser, same session. So what I'm doing now is using an incognito browser, which creates a different session, and I'm logging in as a client. Okay. This client is actually they're the primary contact for this company, Millennium Falcon Incorporated, and that's the company that's the profile that's loaded now. If they were the primary for multiple companies, they could switch companies here and be the primary for multiple companies. This is important for accountants and attorneys, typically, who are dealing with customers who have multiple corporations. But here you'll see that they can edit the company information as the primary, and coming in the future will be the ability for them to add other users, company that work for also Millennium Falcon Incorporated, for example. So yes, that is something that's in the works. Also thought, and I wanted to hit on it, initially I thought you were asking about staff members, onboarding staff members. We don't have a kickoff form for staff members, but we do have the capability for when you add a new staff member. Let me switch back to here. When you add a new staff member, you can assign them to things like flows, update forms, document signings, things of that nature, so that you can use many of the same tools. And increasingly more and more, we're moving in this direction to enable all the automation and process tools on the HR side, so that even when you're onboarding staff members of a certain description, you can put them in a specific funnel, a specific workflow that prepares them for that job, even down to the point of LMS courses that you can assign, create training courses, run them through these courses, have them sign documents, non-competes, non-disclosures, whatever it is, and all in a process-driven way, so that these things can be if streamlined and save time. Yes, that's correct. That's for your staff. That's what I mean. So when you're adding staff members, you can select LMS products, onboarding flows, document signings is something that is also possible now. Teams, this is what we call teams. This is the staff side equivalent of circles. So on the staff side, they can also wear wristbands and be segmented into different groups which will affect the way that the portal presents itself to them, and that's called teams on the staff side. Okay, I am going to continue down this road. Please ask questions as they come, but I think we are really logically in a really good place to keep going. And let's go next to dashboards. Okay, so you guys have asked your questions. A lot of them revolve around onboarding and the ability to use in how to set these kind of things up. The next thing you'll want to pay attention to is dashboards, and I want to bear with me while I also open. Okay, good. This is a client that's logged in representing the company's Starbucks, famously from The Simpsons. This is a dashboard that's built around payroll dashboard. It's not functionally accurate, maybe for some businesses, but the idea of it is. What's important to understand is that this is built generically and is using dynamic data everywhere. And in fact, this picture is dynamic. This name is dynamic. The company name is dynamic. The data that powers these charts is dynamic, and the data here is all dynamic. And when I say dynamic, what I mean is, and I think the best way to illustrate is to go here. One sec. This is actually accomplished through Pages. Payroll dashboard, this is it. And I'll explain quickly the difference between portal pages and dashboards soon. But here is a perfect example. Okay, so just what I showed on the other side with Josie, this is what powers it. So it's an image type. You can upload your own, or you can choose. I want to choose the CRM custom, the contact profile image, right? The avatar. Okay, and that's what's going to power this. And what it means is whoever accesses this page, who has permission to access, they're going to be logged in, right? So imagine it's just like Facebook. We don't need to know who's going to be here. We only need to know at the moment that they log in, and then it's down to one person, in this case, Josie, which we saw earlier. But let's do a preview, and this will really hammer home the logic. Okay. We start the preview, and you see here, forms do not show in preview unless a contact is previewed. Please select a contact to see the data. So again, this is all generic data. But if I go back and choose Starbucks, as we saw before, there's the data for that company. If I choose another company, there's the data for that company, if it exists. In this case, I don't think it does. Let me try a different one. Yep. So some of this is not populated as far as the charts, but here's one that is. So this data is different than the other. So why is this important? What this means is that you can create experiences that are associated generically with a circle, right? So in this case, this page is assigned to the payroll circle, and it's set as the start page for everyone in the payroll circle. So what that means is that when any user, I'm sorry, client or prospect who is assigned as the payroll in the payroll circle, when they log in, they are immediately redirected because of the start page to that page, to this page. There's could be 100 different clients in this circle, and you, as you can see here, now this data is not dynamic, just so you know. This is static, but this chart is populated by a custom field of number type, and that is the data is read from the profile of the logged in user. So it's just a good example. So now we've created one experience based around the circle, but it dynamically adapts itself to into whichever client is logged in, as we see in this example. Also notice that the dashboard or the menu items are much smaller than what you would see, say, in an admin in your portal. This is also affected by circle affiliation. Any of these items can be turned on or off. You can create new menu items that are custom designed and for the based on circle affiliation. So you can create a portal that morphs, that adapts, that directs, that and then feeds dynamically the data based on the logged in user. Does that make sense? Everybody following? So it can be as complex as this, or it can be as simple as the defaults, which are something like you might see, I think here, this is a really kind of like very default. This is a custom menu item, but this is kind of a default look for clients as they would come in. They can go and see their invoices and estimates, any proposals. If they don't have any, there's no list here. If they do have them, they're here. If not, there's nothing to see. But you can turn all this off and on based on your preferences. It has to be some default configuration for you, but it's very easy to turn on and off. And let's look at how. Let's go to custom menus. And here in custom menus, you can basically design any menu configuration for any circle. So let's just say that one that we were just looking at, say proposals. You're going to say, you know what? I don't need to use proposals. I'm not using them. Let me just turn them off for clients and prospects. Okay. That's it. Done. That menu item is no longer showing. This is a sub menu item. If you decide that you're not going to use projects, let me turn this back on because I suspect that I will get fooled by that. If you decide not to use projects, you can easily turn that off for clients, right? And then they will not see projects and never will. So all of this is really simple to manage and understand how to change. If you're in the legal profession, for example, we have sometimes people will rename this cases or matters, right? And then maybe change the icon. That's okay. That's easy to do. So now see, it changed in real time, matters now, or whatever you want to call this. You can create new menu items if you have Thrive or Pinnacle. You can link directly to specific portal pages, to a start page, to projects, to client talk. There's a lot of options here. These are all no code options for ways to connect your clients and prospects to various parts of your portal. And these also can be managed. Once they're created, they can be managed. Let's just show circle managed. And we'll just say we want to link out to Google, for example. Obviously not, but there's many other things here that you guys can one day understand, but we don't have quite enough time to cover the whole platform, obviously. Here it is, circle managed. Let's just drag it up the top for fun. You'll see it reflected. And now we can manage the visibility, client, prospect, yes or no, but we can also say circle. And notice when I click circle, clients and prospects is now grayed out. Now it's dependent. Yes, client and prospects, yes, depending on whether or not they're in a specific circle, like vendor attorney or bookkeeping. So in this case, we'll allow all these people to see this circle, right? Okay. So a lot of powerful options on creating, designing, and implementing a portal for not just one type of client, but for many types of clients. Okay. I used a lot of time there, but I think those questions are pretty universal and probably helpful. I hope. Okay. Because one of the questions was, how do you make a portal? So generically, I think the last 35 minutes is essentially that. Okay. Best uses. I see Linda is here. I see Linda says, good. Oh, good, Linda. Okay. So you say best uses for solo practice for just launching. Linda, it can go. I'll be very vulnerable here and say, SuiteDash is an ambitious project, an ambitious concept. Okay. We are a generic platform attempting to solve the problems of SMBs of every description. So what we provide is a very powerful, very flexible set of tools that can be applied in just about any way that you can imagine. That means a lot of great things, but there's one thing that it doesn't mean. It means there's no step 1, step 2, step 3 for every one of our clients. We cannot define for really any in particular client, this is how you do it. Because in your business or in another person's business, workflows are very different, even in the accounting field, right? Even in accounting or consulting, the way that you do it, the way that you proceed through your workflows and onboardings could be quite different from another account. And so, yes, we can provide workflows, but in general, I think what you concentrating on, let me get back to dashboards. I will as soon as I do this, but concentrating on the idea of this kickoff form as a concept that can be very helpful to you by standardizing the initial workflow as it relates to a specific type of client. Okay, so what I mean is, let's just use bookkeeping prospect. Okay, we're going to call it that. You can now, if you categorize them as such, you can set their circle, you can set their coordinator. So you set their circle as bookkeeping. You can generate a document for them to sign. If you have an initial document, you can create that document template, and you do that here in documents. You create a template, and you're going to assign that. You can even see these placeholders let you dynamically name it based on the submission data. So when that submit button gets clicked, all of these things happen immediately. The document's created. A dynamic name is applied to it that relates to the client specifically. Let's say the document says, I, comma, first name, last name, agree to, these things. the first name and last name in the documents filled in just like a mail merge, as if you've been around the block a few times, you know what that means. All that happens immediately, and the document gets generated immediately, sent for signing or available for signing. And all of these other things are quite powerful as well. Each one of them requires a few minutes of explanation, but that's what SuiteDash Academy is for. That's what our documentation is for. But suffice it to say, you can start them down a marketing path. You can assign LMS products. Maybe you don't really need to train them, but you can use an LMS course in the aspect of what to expect. You know, here's how to prepare for tax season. Here's how to run your books every month. You know, maybe they'll find that information from you quite powerful and helpful, and also it establishes you as an expert, as a guide. And they'll want to do business with you if you can help them feel like they are being educated and cared for. And this is all happening inside your branded portal. Also, remember, you can launch projects. You can immediately generate proposals. You can schedule automations. This is also quite powerful. Email cannons, form cannons, all these things have a story. You'll want to understand how they all work, and then understand if that fits the way that you do business. There's a great video in the Academy on the differences between these invoice generators. I would definitely highly recommend that. So this lets you standardize the onboarding for these clients and kick off that first set of processes. Now you can add to that. We'll call this stage one. You can add to that, and then as you grow and understand more about what you need, you can layer new functionality, new automation on top. And as I tell everybody that starts this journey, really think in terms of 10 to 12 months. Okay. Is 12 months? If in 12 months you were able to automate 50% of your workflow, of your admin tasks, would that be acceptable? Would that be awesome in your book? I think most people would say yes. Give yourself some time to get used to what we're doing here and what you're trying to build. You're building a machine that will save you money and time. It starts with a kickoff form. It's appropriately named. It kicks off a process. It gets you to step one. Let me show you. It's a diagram that I use for a video. Let me get to the right one. Okay, good. Here. We call this concept practical automation. Okay, so the idea is, remember we said target, enters, kickoff form. We set them, we execute. In the kickoff form, we're defining all the automations that immediately happen. Okay. But what we understand is that you can't automate an entire business, every single step. Humans have to be involved. So we create what are called auto templates that let you batch or record or not define automations that are ready to be triggered manually by you or your staff based on a decision matrix that you design it around. Okay. So kickoff form, automation, they basically, the ball's in their court. Then it comes to what we call a human interaction point, a checkpoint, where a human being needs to look at the data and say, okay, now next step is going to fit scenario A, B, C, or D. You'll create an auto template that is appropriate. Create 4 different ones, each one appropriate to scenario A, B, C, or D. And then the goal is that the human can assess this information, decide which scenario is most appropriate, and then in about 3 clicks, trigger the auto template that's appropriate for that scenario. And the goal here is that then kicks off in another automation slide, we call it. Ball's in their court. Everything's happening automatically. The document's sent for signing. A form is sent that needs to be filled out. Now we're in another phase of automation, which then kicks us back to another checkpoint where we have another set of auto templates designed to constantly streamline and kick back to an automation. Now, this can take some time to build, but once it's built, this is the magic, because you can now All of these admin tasks are taken care of. Not only that, but you can train someone to assess these scenarios and make 3 clicks based on the identification of the scenario. This has the potential to completely, if not, I don't know about completely, but substantially free you from these things, right? From these manual admin-y type of things, right? Okay. Let me return to where we were here. And Matt says, can the primary contact track who still has to complete courses or has pending docs for e-sign? Matt, you're a little further. You're kind of operating in a layer, a paradigm where the company then gets to kind of have this platform extended to their usability level. SuiteDash is really more designed on a 2-layer concept, more traditional. You, as the owner of the software and the configurer of the software, are the business. Your clients, they're your clients. It's meant for interaction between you as the business and them as the client. It's not necessarily meant to enable functionality for your client down to their clients or staff. Okay. There is some of that happening as we go in that direction to simplify. For example, when you're working with a team and on a project, right? You might be working. Your company might be working with another company on a project, and that other company who is your client, they may have 5 people that need to be involved in this project. And those 5 people might change over the course of a month or course of the project. So what we move towards exactly so that the primary would be able to manage their side of that by editing company information, adding and removing staff members, or in our case, they're called clients as well, but they're associated with the company. So they're all 5 of those people would be a client in our system, but they're grouped together by the company wrapper, company container, and therefore we create. I think you might have seen earlier when we were looking at. Let's go here, and I can start this conversation. I can segue here. Not here. But we also have company circles, what are called company circles. When you create a company, we auto create a company circle, which functions exactly the same as a traditional circle, except that it's dynamic based on who is associated with the company. So you can, for example, create a dashboard just for a company and a shared folder just for a company. And that all that is controlled. The permissions are controlled by the company circle. That way, if you remove someone from the company, they instantly lose access to all those resources. If you add someone to a company, they instantly get access. So this saves you the trouble of creating those on your own and associating them properly, and then having to manually move people in and out of circles. So the company circle is super powerful if you need to make company-specific data resources like dashboards, portal pages, or shared folders, that kind of thing. Okay, or a menu maybe in the portal. But let's get to dashboards, and I think this will kind of close our portal. Linda, let me read your question. I'm in a stage with my new client to send contract to close the deal. I liked how SuiteDash creates the flow without needing to use multiple aspects of the tech stack. That's great. Is this practical automation, graphic, or something like it in the academy? You know where you can find this? I believe that was used in What is a Portal? This video, I think, is a really good place to start. Let's see if we can see it in here. Actually, I don't think I got to this one. I planned to pop a follow-up to this, but this is a good place to start to understand what's a portal. So please watch this one. To understand auto templates. There's Automations 101 is down here, and you can look at auto templates here. I think I probably reference it in that video as well. There is a video here. I need to, we just launched this. This is what we call Academy 2.0. So this has been launched recently, and my apologies if some of the items don't quite have the videos added yet. But yes, you will come to understand exactly. I love this idea, this, as you pointed out, this practical automation concept, because we have a lot of customers who have taken this to heart and have sat and built and done the work. It does take time. I'm not going to lie. I mean, anything that has this kind of power will need some investment to get the return. And the return is super powerful. It's freedom and automation and streamlining, which leaves you to work less or run more business through, which means you can be more profitable. So, you can choose which one you want, but it certainly enables more of more bandwidth through your process that's not limited by the number of cycles you have available to you in the morning when you wake up. As we all know, there's only so many cycles I can process every day. Okay. But yes, exactly what you are asking for is you'll be able to accomplish with SuiteDash for sure. Yes, Matt, like a client PM who manages their team. Exactly. One thing you'll notice in projects that there's a primary assigned client and secondary clients. So that's similar. Really quick on dashboards, okay? And then I think we're close to time, but I'm happy to answer questions if you need. Dashboard is this default menu item that you see here, okay? Everyone has it by default, and what they see is going to be dependent on how you configure and how you build, okay? We'll start off with what's called a fallback dashboard. This is default for every user except for the super admin. And the super admin has their very own fallback dashboard. So these are the ones that are default. However, you can create any number of additional dashboards and build them out any way you'd like with brand new blocks and all these things. And when you create a new dashboard, you're just going to give it a name. So we'll say new dashboard. But the important part is how you assign it, okay? And it uses our block builder. There's all kinds of juicy options here that you can have fun with. But this part, it takes a tiny bit of explanation. So let's handle this. They can only see one dashboard, right? There's only one. So what do they see? On the other side, say your client. You set that by a priority system. Okay, the lowest priority is by their role. So say, for example, you say, I want to assign this if there's no other instruction. If this person is a client, show them this dashboard by role. It was very generic. This is the lowest priority. On top of that, you can say, okay, I want to show them to clients if no other instruction exists. But here's where you can give another instruction that supersedes. You can say, if they're in the payroll circle, that supersedes this instruction. So now the system says, okay, they're in payroll. Let's divert them to this dashboard. And then there's only one other instruction that can supersede circle assignment or team assignment, and that is direct assignment. So you could have a client who is a client. They are in the payroll circle, along with, say, 100 other people. But you want to show them some very, very specific data based on who they are. Now you can say, okay, but for Buzz Cola, they will see this dashboard. Okay. So in the end, this dashboard is really only for Buzz Cola. But if it's not Buzz Cola, it'll go to payroll. Payroll clients will see it, barring any other conflicting or higher priority assignments from other dashboards. This can get a little bit logically crazy if you want it to, if you try to break it, if you try to think of scenarios where it can be complicated. It can be, But in general use cases, you're not going to run into that. You're going to create dashboards for like a specific type of client. You're going to create dynamic data on that dashboard, very similar to what we created here or what you saw in the page with, which I've moved away from, of course, this one. So generic dashboard for all the types of clients, but it has dynamic placeholders here that customizes it to them and feeds them their own data. These are button blocks that allow you to make no code direction in the portal. So see click action. So now you don't have to do this kind of you don't have to know how to code and how to push people in one direction or the other. We make all that very easy for you by providing these options. And each one of the options, in the case of appointment scheduling pop-up, we adapt the rest of the form to say, okay, which appointment types do you want to offer when they click this button? And then in the case of this, let's go back and just see. I say, schedule an appointment. Boom. Now they can schedule an appointment. I got logged out somehow. But yes, this is how it can all work and how you can create a portal that's very customized to your workflows and the way that you do business. Okay. Any last minute questions? I hope that direction was good. I moved further away from answering super specific questions and tried to be generically answering the idea of what is a portal? How do you make a portal? How do you figure this out? Yes, ma'am, Linda. I would subscribe to our YouTube channel. This will be a YouTube video. Also, the Succeed with Software podcast is available. Let's do a couple of quick reveals if you guys have 2 minutes. This is you'll be able to adjust the fonts in your platform soon. Using Google Fonts, you'll have a choice of these thousands of fonts that you can choose from. You'll be able to say, oh, yeah, I want to use this one or that one or whatever they look like. But you'll be able to go to Google Fonts and get a good preview and then readjust using any one of these options that you like, right? And that's just secondary headers. Also, you can do any of the general text, just match it to your personal style or the style of your business. Okay, that's one. And then what else do I have? Oh, is this support tickets? I think so. Support tickets was really close. This is just an interactive piece of dev. This is on dev environment where you can see support tickets. So here's a nice little preview, functional preview. It's very close. It'll be on the Pinnacle plan for those of you who are interested. Okay. Matt has a question. Subscriptions. Can it be implemented for a company regardless of the number of users in the company? Changed once, not once per user in the company. Let me ask a couple clarifying questions, Matt. Do you mean your clients you want to have them pay a subscription? The external users, the clients that sign up with you as a business, your clients that pay you. Yes. Okay. 1 monthly charge. Yes. So in invoicing, let's go to Office. So you want to create subscriptions. That's definitely doable. So you want to go to subscriptions. Could have one or more users. It won't matter about the users. It won't matter how many users either, unless you create multiple plans. So subscriptions is based on a plan. And when you create a plan, you're going to define the variables here. And then that plan can be offered to your end users. And when they quote, sign up for the plan and enter their credit card information, then all the details associated with that plan becomes a subscription, in which case it's just like your Netflix subscription. We will take the money from that credit card based on the subscription details. But we don't have something that has like a selector where it can be like, how many users do you have? Is that kind of where you're going? I think the approach there, if you needed that, would be to create a plan that had like 1 to 5 users and then 6 to 10 users or something like that, and then offer them in a dashboard or a portal page as a spectrum of choices which they could then choose. But it certainly, just to be clear, would not be something that would be dynamically adjusted based on how many users are in that company. I think that's where you're going. I can tell you're thinking not looking dynamic. Okay, it feels like, which I totally get, and we are moving in the direction of. So I'm not discounting this. The ability to you're creating a platform that becomes a service to some end user is what I kind of feel like we're moving towards. Yeah. Okay. We're doing our best to move in that direction. We hear more and more of that. As I was saying before, SuiteDash is really built around a traditional company/client relationship, 2 ways. We have more and more movement towards what I call a three layer or a 3-way relationship, a 3-legged stool, where you have the company, that's you're the facilitator, and then you have 2 other sides of the business. One is the client, and the other one is what we call the collaborator. And in our theory, as we think going forward, and typically when someone is looking to build something like I think you're moving towards, is they're looking to facilitate the relationship between the client and the collaborator in some way, or multiple collaborators. So yeah, I think that's what's happening. Stay tuned, and also go on our roadmap, Matt, and look at the collaborator offering that's there in the roadmap. I think it describes similar to what you're thinking about. It's something that it's such a key thing that we've been talking about it for many quarters, actually. It's been on the roadmap for 18 months at least. And really, it's about us collecting data to try to understand the best way to approach to enable this kind of functionality. So as you can imagine, each person's needs will be very, very different. So we're trying to hear and collect, and that's what these webinars are quite valuable for. Hear and collect data and ideas on what is trying to be accomplished so that we can start moving down that road without painting ourselves in a corner, which is always the danger, right? We want to create something that is flexible and generic enough that we can move forward and not build something that doesn't allow for that. Yeah. But good. I hear you. And as one thing you should know, and it doesn't happen in every case, but we had a webinar on Tuesday where something came up with one of our clients, and it's already in the pipeline. In fact, I think it's already in testing, one of the items. So by next week, one or two of the items that we talked about and brainstormed out together in the webinar will be on live, will be available for that gentleman, yes, but also for all the other people who just didn't happen to be in the webinar, but probably need something like that. So whenever we find something that's a short row or short run for us, it's achievable with some realistic amount of effort that can bring advantages, is generally judged to be advantageous to a large number of our client base, or some sufficient number of our client base, then we can move on that pretty quickly. Okay. Great. Thanks for everyone's time. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the input. Thanks for the responses. I hope it was helpful for you. Yes, ma'am, Linda. I would be very happy to, if it was helpful and that you're able to move ahead, but please come back as many times as you want. Like I said at the beginning, this is kind of like the easiest part of my day. I just get to discuss and talk to clients and be off the cuff and very relaxed and informal. That's what we do here. And I enjoy this part of it. So thank you. Really, really happy to see you. Hope to see you again. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.